First of all, what do you mean by mercantilism? It means an economic theory and practice. It was the economic counterpart of the previous medieval version of the political power, divine rights of the kings, and absolute monarchy. Now, if we go into the history of the universe, we will find that mercantilism took place in the age of 1757 to 1813, the middle of 17th century, when Asia still had more important place in the world than Europe. Riches of Asia were incomparably greater than the European states. Asian industrial techniques were the tradition that the European handicrafts didn't possess. The Portuguese led the way in 1498 CE when the Vasco da Gama landed in Calicut. Traders from different European nations came here for the slice of immense. Now let us study about English East Indian companies, how they came into India and started their trading. The English East Indian companies trade in the East. A group of merchants formed a private corporation in 1598, whereas in 1600 the EEIC received a royal charter from Queen Elizabeth I, which means they were hired to trade the Eastern world. This hiring gave the EEIC a monopoly of trade for the period of 15 years, whereas its first voyage was commissioned in 1601. A diplomatic mission through Sir Thomas Roe was sent to the court of the Mughal Emperor Jahangir. When Jahangir was having all the rights in the country with the aim of securing permission to build trading posts in Surat and other areas. In 1615, the EEIC established its factory in Surat. Trading posts built in Mausalipatnam, Agra, Ahmedabad, Madras, Patna and Baleshwar. In 1662, the EEIC was given the island of Bombay by King Charles II, whereas the company established many factories at this place, each under the command of the factor. Now, this is the image which we can see the English East Indian Company factory in Surat. Now, let us study about French East Indian companies, how French established their companies in India. French arrived India following the British. The French tried to establish in 1664, whereas it was largely dependent on the government finances. The Dutch and the Danish East Indian companies were also present in different parts of the India. Now we will see how the companies were different from earlier ones, how they set a trend in the companies, had support of their respective governments. They gave a great deal of freedom and political military power as well. The English and French companies believed that they needed to establish a monopoly over the trade in India. This rivalry culminated of the series of trade wars. Now we will study how trade wars. Now we are going to study what and how trade wars came in picture. The England and France has been traditional rivals in Europe, reached its peak during the second half of the 18th century, and by then they took the control of colonial possessions. The Anglo-French rivalry led to a series of wars. Most of the battles were fought in the Carnatic region of parts of Tamil Nadu. We have 3 Carnatic wars. First, let us study about the First Carnatic War, which took place in 1744 to 1748. It was the time span of 4 years when the First Carnatic War took place. The England and France became engaged in the war in 1742. Then they soon spread to India. The French were led by Dupleix, the Governor General of the Pondicherry. You can see here is the picture of Dupleix, who is the Governor General of Pondicherry. Then he decided to adopt a more aggressive role in the local politics of the Carnatic. This Carnatic War led him to take the aggressive role in local politics. Now let us go deeper and study about the Second Carnatic War, which took place between 1749 to 1754. The Anglo-French rivalry came into picture when a war of succession broke out in Hyderabad. And in Hyderabad, the two contenders were Nasir Jung and Muzaffar Jung. Nasir Jung was the supporter for British and Muzaffar Jung was the supporter for the French. Then the two claimants were Chanda Sahib and Muhammad Ali, whereas Chanda Sahib was the supporter for French and Muhammad Ali was the supporter for British. Chanda Sahib was captured and executed and replaced by Muhammad Ali. Then the French suffered a lot when Dupleix was recalled to France. Then the French still retained their positions to protect the Nizams of Hyderabad. Here is the picture of Robert Clive, the fort in Tiruchirappalli where Muhammad Ali took refuge in the Second Carnatic War. Now let's go and study the Third Carnatic War, which took place between the year 1756 to 1763. The 7 years of war in Europe led to the clash between British and French in India again. The conflict spread beyond the Carnatic to Bengal. The VIIC was facing scarcity in its finances and suffered the Battle of Vandewash in 1760. With the year, it lost Pondicherry as well. The factories were to be used only for trade. The credit for VIIC's victory is generally given to Robert Clive. Then, the Robert Clive was a young man of 25, where he had been bred as a bookkeeper. Then he made his arrangements and exhausted fatigue. Now we're going to study what is the conquest of Bengal and how did it took place. Bengal was one of the richest provinces in the subcontinent. The VIIC had built a fortified trading post here at Fort William. In 1717, the Mughal Emperor Farrukhsiyar gave the VIIC the privilege of importing and exporting of goods from Bengal, and that too he allowed the import and export of goods from Bengal without paying any taxes, and the company issued dastakats, or known as passes, for the goods export and import from taxes. This helped private traders to carry trade without paying any tax to the government of Bengal. Alivardi Khan, who was the Nawab of Bengal, was able to stop the misuse of the dastakats of large extent. English and French were asked to stop the fortification of their territories in Bengal, whereas the Nawab of Bengal and VIIC led to deceive the conflict between them. Here is the picture of Farrukhsiyar, who was the Nawab of Bengal. Now let us study about the most famous battle, the Battle of Plassey, which took place in 1757. In the year of 1756, the Calcutta was captured by Siraj-ud-Dowla's forces, and the VIIC recaptured Calcutta in 1757 and a plan to overthrow the Nawab. Mir Jafar, one of the generals of Siraj-ud-Dowla's army, offered his support to the English, whereas in 1757 the Plassey clash between the Nawab's troop and the English, betrayed by Mir Jafar, whose contingent did not take part in the battle. Though Nawab escaped, Mir Jafar was proclaimed the Nawab of Bengal. The generals of Siraj-ud-Dowla's army, Mir Jafar, proclaimed the Nawab of Bengal. Then he gave the English a huge compensation, and the VIIC also levied heavy demands of revenue on him. Mir Jafar soon realized that he could not meet the demands of the EEIC. Then, in order to check the misuse, Mr. Qasim abolished taxes on internal trade completely. Mr. Qasim was one of the members who took the misuse of Dastakhans and abolished taxes on internal trade. Mr. Mir Qasim was ousted.